In this video, I want to rank all the Pibby corrupted tunes from most dangerous to least dangerous. The most dangerous tunes will be put in the savage category, and then we'll move over to vicious. Scary will be after that, then bad, and last will be the fine category. And I say they're fine because they're just weak enough that you can probably get away from like a corrupted version of them with no issues. Now, I'll be ranking these characters based on how powerful they are, the abilities that they use, and if they actually gang up on a person. Now, the first category is going to be savage, and I think I need to start off with Sonic. It doesn't matter if we're talking about Boom Sonic or the traditional Sonic because they're both super powerful. Most people understand that Sonic is fast to the point where we've seen him like run on water, but to put it in perspective, Sonic is faster than Mach 1, which is equal to the speed of sound. Sonic is also very physically strong and ambitious, especially if he's fighting for something that he believes in. So him being corrupted would definitely be trouble for almost anybody. Because remember, if the corrupted character can actually touch you, they can corrupt you as well. So imagine trying to get away from somebody that moves faster than the speed of sound. Next on this list is going to be Bubbles from the Powerpuff Girls, and I'm sure a lot of you have probably seen the viral TikTok going around asking people if they would rather fight Batman or the Powerpuff Girls.
So would you rather for $100 million fight the Powerpuff Girls every day for a year, or fight Batman once a year for 10 years?
Fight the Powerpuff Girls every day for a year?
For a year and then you're done.
No.
And let me tell you something, only an absolute fool would choose to fight the Powerpuff Girls. Bubbles basically has all the powers of Superman, give or take, but the mind of a little girl with anger issues. And if you don't believe me, just watch what they do to Mojo Jojo on a normal occasion. Left them slump. And just a fun fact, if we think that Sonic is fast, the Powerpuff Girls can travel at the speed of light and they move freely in outer space. That means that even if you got into a spaceship and tried to escape the planet, Bubbles would still run you down. So I definitely think she deserves her spot in this top category. Next, we're gonna go with corrupted Naruto. And if you're not like an anime fan, you may not be familiar with this kid, but he is crazy strong. While he isn't moving at Mach speed or anything like that, he is a ninja and he is very fast in his own right. He can also make like 100 or more copies of himself, and he also has a demon fox living in his body that has the potential to burn the world down if fully released. But even with just 1 or 2 tails, most people would have a hard time dealing with this kid. Now, I've actually watched all of Naruto, so I know that there are quite a few people that could deal with him before he unleashes his full power. But he would definitely still corrupt a ton of people and just cause a ton of destruction before they actually were able to stop him. Now, some of you may not agree with this next one, but I think I need to put the Teen Titans here. And while Robin, Beast Boy, and even Starfire are not that bad, Raven is what really puts them in its top slot. For those of you that don't know, Raven is by far the most powerful member in the Teen Titans. She's basically the daughter of a super powerful demon, making her half human, half demon. And with that, she has the power to basically heal herself to some degree. She can also like read emotions and like sense what's going on in your mind. She has the ability to use telekinesis, and she can even use and like manipulate dark energy. And while she may not be able to move at like Mach speeds or anything like that, she can fly. And if you're just a regular person, I mean, good luck trying to get away from somebody who can literally fly. And I think her largest feat is that she's able to manifest her own fears. So basically she's able to take anything that she's afraid of and bring that into the real world. So having a corrupted Raven is basically just having a super powerful, crazy witch chasing you down. Next is going to be Uncle Grandpa, and I know this guy may look super derpy, but he's actually very powerful. And if that wasn't bad enough, he's also considered to be immortal, which means that this dude cannot die. So in the Cartoon Network universe, he's definitely one of the more powerful people. This character has the ability to like throw lightning. He can also pull pretty much anything out of his belly button. And if he keeps that power even when he's corrupted, that can definitely be devastating. And if you guys remember, in his mod, the only reason that he got corrupted was because he was actually trying to save a girlfriend. So having this godlike character as a corrupted being would be terrible for anybody in his area. Now, I think that's all I'm gonna put in the savage category. Let's move over to vicious, and these characters are still very dangerous, but just not the most dangerous on the list. I think I want to start this tier off with Spinel and Steven, since they're both from the same show and are about equal in how dangerous they are. I know for most people, Spinel being high on this list kind of makes sense, but if you're not familiar with Steven, you may be surprised. But Steven is actually very powerful. He has superhuman strength, speed, and durability. And while that doesn't mean that he's invincible, it does mean that he can take a real beating and he can even heal himself. And the fact that he and Spinel are like together in many of these mods make them a very hard pair to deal with. It's kind of like the shield and the sword combination. And in a way, I think this pair is even more dangerous than Finn and Jake, who I'll be talking about later in this video. Next, I'm going to add Jenny the robot. And some of you may be too young to remember this character, but Jenny basically has all the same powers as Steven as far as speed, power, and durability, but she also has access to a ton of weapons. And something that's scary about her is that she has like superhuman hearing, meaning that even if you try to hide, she could probably still hear your heartbeat or your breathing. So while her normal form is kind of cute and funny, her corrupted form is actually terrifying. Timmy and Vicky from the Fairly Odd Parents are going to be next, and some of you may be wondering why they make it so high on this list. And while Vicky isn't that dangerous, Timmy is usually with her and he is very dangerous. If he still has his Fairly Odd Parents with him and can speak, he can basically wish for anything. But with that being said, if for whatever reason he can't speak, because in a lot of these mods it seems like the corruption actually rots the brain of whoever takes over, this pair probably falls down to that bottom tier because that makes them just two kids who got corrupted. But I'll keep him here for now just because I think that he could be dangerous if he still has access to some of that power. Now I'm going to add Batman to this tier next, and I'm sure I don't need to explain why Batman is scary. Even not being corrupted, he'll still like break a criminal's legs, crack their jaws. Like Batman is an absolute savage. So imagine him with no moral compass and no like mind to keep him rational. He would basically just be stalking around in shadows and giving hands to everybody that came his way. Next, I'm going to add Tails here, and this is a character that could have made it to the top tier, but since he is like one tier lower than Sonic on all points except intelligence, I'm going to go ahead and place him here. But to be clear, just because Tails isn't as fast as Sonic or as strong as Sonic, he's still a pain to deal with, right? Next, I'm going to throw Broken Strings here, specifically Elmo and the gang that got corrupted. And I think I'm going to add them here because their corrupted characters are actually very close to the real world. I don't know if y'all remember, but in the Broken Strings mod, the corruption took over some of the older episodes of Sesame Street. And if people go back and watch those corrupted episodes while the corruption is actually on the screen, it's basically able to make it into the real world. And if that happens, it's basically GG to everybody. This one probably could have made it to that top tier, but let's be honest, no one is really watching the original episodes of Sesame Street anymore. Little kids nowadays are like watching Paw Patrol or Bluey or something. Now, I think I need to put Ben 10 up here as well, and I place him so high because he seems to still be able to use his alien powers, and while some of his aliens are relatively weak, some of them are super powerful. So depending on what he actually transforms into, he can be a huge threat to people not only in his immediate vicinity, but just on the planet in general. Next, we're going to put Daddy Dearest and Girlfriend, and some people may not agree with these two being so high up, but Daddy Dearest is actually very powerful, even if they somehow take away his ability to use magic. He's also basically immortal, so even if you do manage to take him out like for a moment, he's just going to come back. And apparently, he doesn't even feel pain, so good luck with that. Now, while Girlfriend isn't as strong as her parents, we do know that she is actually pretty durable as well, and she also has the ability to heal people and create barriers to protect herself and others. So if these two end up together, they can be a real pain to deal with. Next is going to be a character that you guys may not be familiar with, and that's Pegasus Seiya, I believe is how you say it. And this is a old school character that like fought to protect the world under the god Athena. And even though this guy was only like 13 in the show, if I remember correctly, he was super powerful. He basically had superhuman strength and speed. And he was also proficient with a ton of weapons. I remember him using a sword and also like a bow and arrow. So just a pain to deal with. Next, I want to add Cuphead and Mugman. And I know a lot of people look at these two and think that they're not that strong. But if you've actually played the Cuphead game, these two are absolute menaces. In their game, they basically became like the hitmen for the devil. And they went through their island and basically just bodied a bunch of giant creatures. Also, if you remember the Indie Cross mod, we kind of got to see what Cuphead can do like in the FNF universe when he went against Boyfriend. And let's just say that he beat Boyfriend pretty low diff. I think these guys definitely don't need to be in the top tier because they're not like the most durable people, but they're definitely a threat. Now, the final characters I'm going to put in this tier is going to be Finn and Jake. And I know a lot of people may feel like these two are too high, but this pair is actually really strong. And in most of the mods, Finn has his sword. Now, if that isn't bad enough, Finn is considered to have like superhuman strength and is really good at swordplay. While Jake has the ability to change his shape, change his size, and he's also like super stretchy and whatnot. So if you get caught by him, you're not getting away. And if that's not bad enough, he's also a hound, right? He's a dog. So he has all the abilities that a normal dog would have. So good luck trying to get away from these two once they have your scent. Now, moving over to the tier that I call scary, which are basically just characters that are dangerous, but at least you have a chance of getting away from them. And I think here we're going to start off with Dr. Doof. I feel like if this character has access to all his tech, he could be a real issue, but without that, which I don't think he has, it would be pretty easy to get away from him for the most part. But I think putting him at like a mid-tier threat is pretty fair. Twilight Sparkle is kind of in the same boat. Now, if she could use her magic, I can see her being a threat, but based off what we saw in her mod, it doesn't seem to be the case. And even though she can fly and whatnot, I still think she wouldn't be terribly hard to get away from without her abilities. Glitter Piece is going to be next. And I know that like the full team of these girls was actually really powerful in their show, but if it's just her on her own, I think most people will probably be able to get away from her, although her lightning powers are actually pretty dang good. And it seems like if you get hit by them, you may just be taken out immediately. Uncle T also makes it to this tier because his second form with the axe is actually pretty dangerous and he's fairly strong. But we saw like in the original mod that boyfriend and girlfriend were basically able to get away from him just by running away, right? I think he also slipped on a banana peel, but still, you can get away from him pretty easily. So as long as you're not foolish and you're trying to stand and fight with him, you're probably going to be okay. Next, we have Princess Bubblegum, and if the corrupted characters got to keep their mind, this character will be much higher because in the show, this princess was kind of a savage. What I mean by that is that she didn't really mind screwing people over if it got her what she wanted. But since that doesn't seem to be the case with the darkness, she makes it to this mid tier because that claw of darkness on her hand still makes her pretty dangerous if she can get close to you. Next, we have this version of Mickey and Minnie that's very reminiscent to like Steamboat Mickey. And while I don't think this pair has any powers that really make them dangerous, they do look really creepy. And I just felt like I couldn't have a category literally called scary and not put these two in it. Because regardless of if they're powerful or not, they definitely are the creepiest characters in this video probably. Now we're gonna go ahead and move over to the bad tier, and these are mostly normal characters. And I think I'm gonna start off with Boyfriend, Pico, and like the rest of his crew. Now, at the end of the day, all these characters are just regular humans, and besides Pico having the gun and Nene with the knife, they're not really going to be that much of a threat. As long as you keep moving and you stay out of Pico's line of sight, you'll probably be okay. And luckily, I don't think Darnell is going to be able to do his pyromaniac stuff when you actually think about it, because the darkness has taken his mind. Now, I've also added Senpai and Monica to this category, and I put them here because they're trapped in a video game, so it's pretty easy to avoid them. The only reason that they're not at the very bottom is because a lot of times people end up getting sucked into their like virtual world. And I think if that happens, you will actually be in a little bit of trouble. But for now, I think that this is probably the right tier for them. I added the Griffins in this tier as well because their corruption seemed to be a bit more aggressive than others. The corruption basically took all the family and like put them together, and then we're also trying to pull other people into the corruption, which is kind of what makes them dangerous. But outside of that, the Griffins don't really have a lot going on. Stewie would probably be the only real threat, but since he doesn't get to keep his intelligence, he's basically just a corrupted baby. I also put the Bears in this tier because like the Griffins, their darkness fused them together. So if you do run into them, I suppose you will have to do like a 1v3. And since they are literal bears, I feel like they are somewhat more of a threat than maybe some of the other characters that are going to come after them. The last character I'm going to place in the bad tier is going to be Dr. Livesley, I believe is his name. And he's from an old Russian film called Treasure Island. And even though he is just a doctor, his corrupted form makes him like a near giant, which is why I think he's actually kind of dangerous. I never figured out why they decided to go that route with his character, but we cannot deny that he does look like he could whoop some tail. Now the last tier are characters that are not dangerous at all, at least when you look at like some of these other corrupted characters. Obviously, if you let them get you, you'll still be screwed, but staying away from them shouldn't be too hard. First on this list is going to be SpongeBob and his crew, and I know in some of the mods you just see SpongeBob corrupted, but in other ones you see like Mr. Krabs, Squidward, and Patrick. The good news with them is that Plankton usually stays free of the darkness, and if anybody in their verse is actually going to be able to fight back, it's probably going to be Plankton. And I don't think I need to explain too much why SpongeBob isn't the biggest threat out of people who have been corrupted. I mean, you can probably get away from a sponge. Now in that same vein, we have Shaggy and the gang as well, and they're very low on this list because they're just regular people. While the darkness itself is always going to be dangerous, the fact that these characters don't have any powers or any type of abilities are going to make them a lot easier to deal with. Or it makes it to this tier as well because he's just a regular dude if he doesn't have his giant robot there to kind of help him out. And I think even if he does have access to the robot, he wouldn't have the mind to actually be able to use it. Jade Animation is going to be next, and I don't think she would be much of a threat either because she's just a YouTube animator. And for those of you that may be thinking that Jaden Animation never got a Pibby mod, it actually just released a few days ago as of making this video, and it was actually a pretty good mod.
And I hope no one can tell, cause the numbers keep decreasing. This ordeal is becoming routine. Check arms, back, neck, thighs. Suck it in and pinch my sides. Scales are betraying me, the mirror is a lie. I wanted to wake up and everything's normal. One day I was hating myself. I couldn't find a reason to get out of bed. I felt broken and no one could fix me. I was surrounded me everywhere I went, and I couldn't breathe. I was in such pain. I tried to swim, but the waves kept running even harder than the last. I kept going.
Mordecai and the rest of the people from the regular show that got corrupted are like not that much of a threat either. I think Gumball and some of the other cartoon characters like Tom and Jerry, Fred Flintstone, and Bugs Bunny also kind of fall under that low threat list. These characters are all from shows that are just focused on comedy, so they don't really have any fighting skills or any abilities that would make them a huge threat to a regular person. The Battle for Dream Island tunes have also had quite a few mods come out for them, and while there is that crazy scene in the car where like they're chasing down Pibby, I think that this group is also pretty low risk. Considering that they're from a kids show, you know, I'm not really that surprised that they don't have a whole lot to offer as far as abilities or like threat level. Annoying Orange is another character that kind of falls in that same category, and I don't think I need to explain too much why like a corrupted piece of fruit probably isn't going to be able to get you, but if it does, you definitely deserve to be taken over by the darkness. Some of you may not remember this one, but Peppa Pig also ended up getting corrupted, and I think it's clear why Baby Pig isn't going to be that big of a threat, even though she did manage to actually corrupt her family. Garcello and Annie were corrupted as well, and I think Annie got corrupted first and Garcello got corrupted trying to save her, but at the end of the day, they're both just normal people and they are very low on the threat scale. Skid and Pump have also been corrupted in the mod, and this one kind of hit home for me because they are two of my favorite characters, as some of you know. But as far as like threat level goes, Skid and Pump are just two little boys. They're not going to be able to do anything to you unless you just let them walk up on you. And with that being said, if you've enjoyed this video, make sure to check out this video on the screen here. Subscribe today to become a member of the Orseofkorse, and we'll see you tomorrow with another video. Peace, peace.